What's up, beautiful image bearers? It's me, CA3, and today we are taking a look at the whole armor of God in Ephesians chapter 6. Now, before we get into the actual armor itself, it's important to note that it does say to put on the whole thing, not just part of it. This armor is literally of God, not just from Him. Isaiah 59:17 says, "For He put on righteousness as a breastplate and a helmet of salvation on His head. He put on the garments of vengeance for clothing and was clad with zeal as a cloak." God has now chosen to share that armor with us, which allows us to be more than conquerors, according to Romans 8:37. Note that the only way we can stand against Satan's attacks are by putting on this armor. It's only through the power of God. And also note that it says we use this armor to stand against, not necessarily to fight against. The word tells us to resist the devil and he will flee from us. Now we move into the reality of spiritual warfare. For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers. Just because most of us choose to live our lives like spiritual warfare isn't happening, doesn't mean it's not actually happening. As a matter of fact, Satan is banking on most of us not believing that he's real, nor are his attacks real. But those of us who are Christians especially must always realize that we are in a spiritual battle all the time, and anything we face that is in opposition to God is deeper than flesh and blood. 2 Corinthians 10:3-4 says, "For though we walk in the flesh, we do not war according to the flesh. For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty in God for pulling down strongholds." Now let's get into the actual armor. It says, "Having girded your waist with truth." Truth is symbolically represented as a belt which both protects our abdomen and gathers up our garments so that we can fight effectively. Just like a belt, truth is what holds it all together. It's the foundation. Having put on the breastplate of righteousness. Righteousness is represented as a breastplate which provides essential protection for the most vital organs. We can no sooner battle against spiritual enemies in our own righteousness than a soldier can effectively fight without his breastplate. Then it goes on to say, having shod your feet with the preparation of the gospel of peace. The preparation of the gospel is represented as the protective shoes or sandals that were worn by Roman soldiers. At the time of this writing, Paul was actually in a Roman prison, so he probably used what he saw as his inspiration. No one can fight effectively or effectively go about their business without having the right equipment. Preparation is a word meaning a prepared foundation. The gospel provides the footing for everything we do. So no matter how powerful the rest of the body may be, if you're wounded in your feet, then you're easy prey for the enemy. Then it says, taking the shield of faith, with which you will be able to quench all the fiery darts of the wicked one. Faith is represented as a shield protecting us from the fiery darts of the wicked one, those persistent efforts of demonic foes to weaken us through fear and unbelief. The shield Paul describes is not the small round one that we probably would typically think of, but it was actually a large oblong shaped shield that could protect the whole body. In ancient warfare, these fiery darts were launched in great numbers at the beginning of an attack. The idea was not only to injure the enemy, but to shoot at him at all sides with a massive number of arrows and thus confuse and panic the enemy. But then it says, and take the helmet of salvation. In the ancient world, this usually was a leather cap studded with metal for extra strength. Often some kind of plume or decoration was added, perhaps to identify the soldier to his regiment. Salvation is pictured as this kind of helmet, protecting an essential part of the body. A soldier would obviously be foolish to go into battle without a helmet, because that would make you an easy target. 1 Thessalonians 5:8 says, "But let us who are of the day be sober, putting on the breastplate of faith and love, and as a helmet the hope of salvation." The helmet of salvation protects us against discouragement, against the desire to give up. It gives us hope not only in knowing that we are saved, but that we will be saved. It is the assurance that no matter what, God gets the victory. And then finally, of course, the sword of the Spirit, which is the Word of God. And I want to leave you with this. The Word is our weapon. No matter what may come against the faith, at the end of the day, we have the words of God to lead and guide us, to cover our minds and keep our spirits. The fact of the matter is, Satan is always attacking God's people. There's no getting around it. You can ignore his reality, but we cannot deny his effects in the world today. So I want to encourage you to keep the armor of God on at all times. And if you're not saved, understand that you can have this same armor through the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. He died not only for you to be able to fight against Satan's attacks in this life, but so that one day we can be with God the Father in heaven. That's all I got for you. God bless you. I love you, and peace.